At 20.
Top 20.
This is tough. These two teams are so close. I have the Washington Redskins. The Washington Redskins, I have ranked 3rd in the division for the NFC East. And they have Richardson, who's new to the system in Washington. I think Gruden is a decent offensive coach, just like his brother. I think he gets something out of the receivers usually, typically. Last year, there was sort of a mess at this position, and they tried to address that with Richardson, just to hopefully get something instead of what Terrell Pryor gave them. I think he'll be better than what Pryor was last year, but I don't really see him meshing as well with Alex Smith as, like Tyreek Hill. He's not as talented as him, or like one of those guys. Jamison Crowder I do really like, and he was the reason why I almost put them one spot higher, because I think he's better than what he showed last year, because I think there's just a lot of mess for the Redskins last year. I think he's kind of underrated. Good slot receiver. Josh Doxson is the guy that kept them one spot lower, because this is another guy with potential that's shown some spots of things, but other times he's dropped touchdowns in the end zone and had some bad games. And so... And then they don't really have a number 4. I mean, they have Brian Quick, but okay. The Redskins, they have like 3 pretty decent options, but they don't have one stud. And they have a pretty good slot receiver, but it depends on Richardson. If Richardson can deliver as a number 1 option, or maybe even a high-end number 2 type of option, then they'll move up on this list. But we just don't know. There's a lot of unknown right now, and that's why I have them at number 20.
Okay, you will be seeing the Redskins very soon on the list. I'm just going to put that out there. Okay, number 20. I think this might be a shot to mention. I don't know. I got the Miami Dolphins here at number 20.
Yeah, I have them a little higher.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I was thinking that. I got them here at number 20. Amendola, Stills, Devontae Parker. They got Albert Wilson. Well, how can they be number 20, you ask? Well, Jarvis Landry's gone. He was basically the only receiver threat. He had like the worst average for yard or for catch ratio in the entire NFL. Which, considering he had like so many catches,
Jarvis Landry for you.
Fucking insane. You got Danny Amendola. I do like. Obviously, I had to see him a lot in primetime games because of the Patriots, so I got to see plenty of him. And
he's Mr. Clutch. He's Mr. Playoffs.
He is Mr. Playoff, but can the Miami Dolphins make the playoffs? That's the question. I don't think so. So we can't see him be clutch that many times. He's getting old. He's getting up there in age. That's probably the biggest factor of this. Kenny Stills, I like him. I like what I've seen out of him. Devontae Parker, I think, lowered their stock because I have not seen that much production from him. He's very inconsistent. Sometimes he can be good. Sometimes he can be mediocre. Albert Wilson, I like. But, again, it's a step down from Jarvis Landry of last year. There's some good talent here. And then, again, I don't know the quarterback situation. Are they going to do anything? I know it's Ryan, but, like, is Ryan even, like, back to his normal self? Like, I don't know if I can trust Ryan Tannehill at this position. Again, hard to say because I watch A&M a lot, but it is what it is. I got the Dolphins at 20 because there is some talent here, but they're either getting older or I just don't know how they're going to fit with Tannehill not being on the football field for much. So, number 20.
Okay. Next up on the list, this might surprise some people considering I really like one of their players. At number 19, I have the New York Giants.
Whoa. Holy shit, I got them way higher than number 19.
Well, they have 2 receivers.
Wow. Oh, okay.
But they have only 2 guys. I mean, literally, I looked at their depth chart, and I'm like, oh, the Giants are going to be, like, top 10. I look at their list, I'm like, Odell's awesome.
He's fantastic.
Shepard's pretty damn good, too. Okay, who's their third receiver? Who's it?
Who is
it? Cody Lattimore? Is it Cody? Cody Lattimore. Cody Lattimore. He was supposed to be good, but I mean, has he been anything besides a special teamer? Like, literally, like. And then you have Russell Shepard, who was supposed to contribute to the Panthers last year, but we know how that worked out. So, I mean, they don't have another guy. That's my only thing with the Giants is when considering the best receiver cores, you need depth. No matter how good Odell is, no matter how good Sterling Shepard is, I think that's a really good 1-2. And if this was 1-2s, they would definitely be top 10. But this is a receiver core. And, yeah, I think they're number 2 in the NFC East, mostly because of Odell. But I just think if he goes down again, what are you left with? You're not left with a legitimate outside target. Shepard is a good slot receiver, but I don't think he's proved to be more than that. And I don't see anything else. And I don't really even see a lot of potential behind them. Maybe they have some late-round rookies that I don't really know of, but I just don't see them having that depth that some of these other teams do. So that's why I have the Giants here at number 19, right?
Yeah, 19. Wow.
19.
Well, I'm not gonna see the Giants.
You don't have to change your list. Go ahead. That's just my point. And you know how much I like Odell.
I know. That's why I was shocked you said it. I'm like, I thought Odell would have pushed him a couple more positions than 19 over here. Number 19 is the Redskins. Mitch mentioned them in his 20th pick. Jamison Crowder, I like what I saw of him. I think it was a nice selection for my fantasy team last year. He had some really, really good games. Pretty much was the only receiver I could actually have respect for in the team last year because the rest of it just crumbled entirely. Paul Richardson, he comes into play. I still, like I said earlier, still think it's the worst free agency signing of 2018, and that's why I have him here at 19. But
in
terms of
bring that up every time, it's just because it's the Redskins. It's just because it's the Redskins.
Bro, you put in the thumbnail of our video. Like you've agreed with this.
Because you said it. I thought it was a good tag. People would click on it.
I don't know, man. I don't think the production, and I got a lot of hate for that, by the way. I don't think that there's going to be a lot of production from him and freaking Alex Smith. I just don't see it.
But what about Josh Doctson, bro?
Josh Doctson has been disappointing for me as well. I mean, we've seen flashes of it, but we saw that, what was it, the one Monday Night Football game where he had the touchdown in the end zone and he dropped it. I know he got hit, but you got to take those hits. I've seen flashes. I've seen like 2 or 3 flashes of him being good, but there's been no consistency. The Redskins, I think, had one of the most disappointing receiver cores of last season based on the talent that they had and what's the word? There's a certain word for it. I can't think of it at the moment. But the expectations we had for them, and they did not come out well. There's 3 guys that you could say they are good and you could like them, but I just don't see it yet. I need to see more of it, except for Jamison Crowder. If he steps up his game, they'll be even better. But I've at least seen some production compared to Paul Richardson, who's new to this team, and Josh Doctson, who I haven't seen much of. So, 19's Redskins.
All right, here we go, Dylan.
I'm wondering where this one's going to be.
The New York Football Jets.
Wow, 18
are ahead of the Giants.
Holy shit! No,
this is the most underrated. This is arguably the most underrated receiver core in the league. You know why?
Why?
They have 4 receivers that in the past 2 years have at least had 800 yards. 4.
Okay, so Robbie
Enunwa had 800 plus yards when he was healthy last year, and he's back. Robbie Anderson had 1,000 yards this past year. I think he was top 10 in receiving yards. Curse had 800 yards this year, and Pryor had 1,000 yards 2 years ago.
Right.
And although I don't think Pryor is that good, I think he's as good as 1,000 yards. He's a good number 4. I mean, at least he gives you some sort of productivity from that position. Jermaine Kearse surprised the hell out of me last year. He came in and he just contributed really, really well. And the Jets overall surprised a lot of people. They were supposed to be like the worst team in the league, and they surprised a lot of people. Robbie Anderson came out of nowhere to be a 1,000-yard guy. You know, great speed, good deep threat. I think he's better than a lot of people think. Enunwa is coming back this year, as I mentioned. He's another guy like Anderson, very athletic, a lot of speed, big body. I think they have a lot of athleticism in this spot, and I think they can actually make their quarterback a little bit better. They'll definitely be able to stretch the field, and then you have some athletes like Kearse and Pryor underneath that can make some plays. So I actually think that they're a pretty decent receiver core, and I think they deserve a little bit more respect. And I think they've shown it. They've actually produced with some pretty below-average quarterback play. So Jets at
just
number
Jets over
8.
the Giants. I can't believe it. This man has been praising Odell.
Because I actually believe Robbie Anderson is a number 1 receiver. If I didn't believe Robbie Anderson wasn't, I would have the Giants at.
So, yeah, I got them here at 18. Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, 2 really good talent. But, again, last couple seasons, I haven't seen the production out of him. I really haven't seen as much. I think Emmanuel Sanders is going to regress this season, which is not something I want to see, considering I like him. But he's seen a drop in receiving yards in the last 3 seasons. Every season's gotten worse, and it's just not as exciting as I would want him to be. A couple years ago would have been a top-tier talent. Now, don't think so. I am really excited to see what Courtland Sutton can do. That is why I have him here at 18, because I think he's going to be a really, really good talent. And I think he's going to maybe go into the number 2 role, maybe even push out Sanders for the number 2.
I doubt that.
The depth chart. Not this season, but I think past this season, we could see that happen.
Well, maybe Sanders will leave.
So, yeah, Thomas, Sanders, they have some name value, but I haven't seen much splashes of them. Like, has anybody really ranked them as like a top 25 receiver in the last 2 seasons? I don't think so. It's a decent combo, but I haven't.
See, this is the difference between you and I. I think it's more the quarterback.
I guess I understand where you're coming from, because the last season was not very good in terms of quarterback play. But
even the season before that.
Well, yeah, when freaking what was the season before? Was that the Super Bowl year, or was it? No, that's the year before that.
Was the year before that. So then 3 years they've had shit quarterback play. 3 years.
Still, I mean, what has Emmanuel Sanders done last year? Like what?
He's still good.
No production. There's no production for me to like give them a higher ground. I know that they haven't had great quarterback play, but to me, even putting them at 18 is a good spot. I have that personally. So there is some good talent. I think Courtland Sutton's going to be a standout, but I got to put him at 18.
The Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Miami
He's really on these AFC East teams. Where is he?
AFC, I'm repping the AFC East, bro. Come on. Miami Dolphins. Okay, hear me out on the Miami Dolphins. Yeah. I've always been a fan of Kenny Stills. I think Kenny Stills is a good receiver. I think he's underrated. And then you hate Jay Cutler. So you got to give him some respect.
For what?
Okay. Devontae Parker, he's shown flashes of like being a guy that could be a guy. You know what I mean? He could get to that next level and be sort of like a Robbie Anderson. He could be like that.
He's a first-round draft pick. I haven't
seen Danny Amendola is – did I have to say anything?
No, we can agree on Amendola, but he's getting older.
Mr. Playoff, I think this is where I disagree. Albert Wilson is good.
He is good.
I think Albert Wilson is good. So that being said, Albert Wilson puts them over the top to me. They have 4 good receivers. They have Kenny Stills, Devontae Parker, who can both stretch the field. They have a Danny Amendola and Albert Wilson who can both work underneath. And I think that's a pretty good receiver core. They also have Jakeem Grant, who's not terrible. So I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins, slightly above the New York Jets. I like both teams' receiver cores, believe it or not. And I think if these 2 teams had a better quarterback, their receivers would go off, bro.
Number 17, the Packers. They're finally here at number 7 for me. I know you were like putting them down.
This is for me. I think Albert Wilson is as good as Randall Cobb.
I disagree on that. I can't agree with you on that. I like Albert Wilson, but I just
Devontae Adams is better than all of them. But I would rather have Stills, Parker, and Amendola than Adams and Allison.
Okay, Allison's a fucking bum. Okay, I know that's hard to put in this list, but look. Let me explain my points here, okay? Randall Cobb, the biggest thing here is that they lost Jordy Nelson. Let's all agree that this is the biggest reason why they're still going to lose.
Yes.
Even with
they would be around 10-ish if they had Jordy Nelson.
If they had that combo, that 3 combo that they've had for years. They were never healthy together, but you know, the talent-wise, they were always there. Randall Cobb, I think, is solid. He's lost a little bit of production, but I think with a healthy Rodgers, I think he'll have a bounce-back 1,000-yard season. Devontae Adams, again, we've seen some really good flashes, and last year had his most consistent year. I'm going to say that right now. He had his most consistent year. In terms of that, I think they got a lot of young talent that they did draft that could be better. Geronimo Allison, not a fan of. Okay, he comes up in 1 or 2 really clutch situations. He can make a good catch, but he's not a consistent
Geronimo!
That's probably the best thing about him is his name, to be honest with you. But what did we see out of the Packers? The second half of the season, we had to see Brett Hundley for most of the year. So in terms of production, I want to see something different. And Aaron Rodgers, I think he can bring a team that has 1 or 2 really good receiver talents to pretty good success.
We're not talking about the quarterback, bro. I'm talking about the receiver.
But you gotta put that into account.
Put the Miami receivers on Green Bay. They're better.
I think they're gonna be decent. 17 is right in the middle, or very close to the middle. I think that's a fair assumption. 2 talents with Aaron Rodgers. That's number 17.
Okay. At 16, I have bear down the Chicago Bears. All right, I have the Chicago Bears. Okay, so they have Allen Robinson, legitimate number 1 receiver. He is away from the God-saken Blake Bortles, who is just absolute trash. Taylor Gabriel, the guy that can stretch the field, had moments in his career. Anthony Miller, I'm a big fan of out of the draft. I think he's going to immediately contribute as a slot receiver. Then they have White, who we've not seen a lot of, but I think he has the athletic ability to be a number 2, maybe even replace Taylor Gabriel in that spot. I think he has the ability to do so, but I think the big thing here is the combination that I really like between Allen Robinson and Miller. I think if they would have kept Meredith, I would have liked this a lot more. But that being said, I believe in the pieces they put together. Plus, I think they fit the offense really well with Matt Nagy. And I think that's going to be a good chemistry mold into the Chicago Bears offense. So I have them at number 16.
Okay, number 16. Team we haven't mentioned yet. Oakland Raiders are here at number 16 for me. Right smack down.
Wow, I have them way higher.
I know. I'm not surprised by that. They got a lot of names. They have got a lot of depth on here. But again, I got to see what they got to do here. You know, new coach, new system. We're going to see how this goes. Jordy Nelson. I thought this was the biggest loss for the Green Bay Packers. I know they got Jimmy Graham as a tight end threat, but
I know what it is. I know why you have them so low. They have Ryan Switzer. They stole him from
say, is it because it's Ryan Switzer? No.
Yes.
No, it's not fucking.
Yes, that's it.
I do miss the fact that they got fucking Switzer. I know, but Amari Cooper, very disappointing last year. Very disappointing.
I agree.
I hope he gets better, but again, I got to go off of 1 year's production. It's what have you done for me lately? So he had a very disappointing year. Martavis Bryant, he goes to a better situation than he was in before. It's a worse team, but in terms of him and what the situation was, he's going to a better team. Seth Roberts, decent. I like him as a 4th receiver kind of guy. Griff Whalen, not bad. Griff. The boy that had probably the worst play in NFL history, the fake punt against the Patriots. Let's look at this. I mean, Jordy Nelson's 32 years old. He's not going to be as great as before, but I think he'll have a good season. Crabtree is gone, so there's a little bit of production lost in that setup. And again, I just don't know how much Cooper's going to give in there. I think there's a lot of depth. I just want to see them actually produce because there's some talent in there. I just want to see what they're capable of in 2018. And until then, I'm very undecided on them, so I put them smack dab in the middle at 16.
All right, that's a fair explanation. I have them higher, though. Okay, number 15. I have another NFC East team, the number 1 NFC East team, the Philadelphia Eagles. I have Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar, Mac Hollins, AC's favorite player, and Mike Wallace. So this is a pretty good receiver core. Alshon Jeffrey, although I have said at times he is a bit overrated, I still think he's around a top 15 wide receiver. So that's a top half number 1 option. Nelson Aguilar, he's probably a top 10 slot receiver and definitely had his moments last year where he showed out. He had a good Super Bowl. Mac Hollins, I think is pretty good. When I watched him in preseason and moments in the regular season last year, he definitely has shown flashes of big play potential, which could hopefully replace Torrey Smith. But they also brought in Mike Wallace, who has basically done the same thing as Torrey Smith his entire career. And I think he might be a smidgen better. Maybe a little bit, but maybe not. I don't know. It's kind of close. It's really, really close. I think they got pretty much as close as the same person as they could with Mike Wallace to Torrey Smith. And I think Hollins takes a step up this year, and I think Aguilar gets a little bit better. And, of course, having Carson Wentz the entire season will definitely help all these guys. I also think Alshon Jeffrey is going to have a big season this year. So I have them at 15.
Bears down. They were in the top 15. Last year, they were fucking garbage at this position.
They're 32. They're 32.
They were the worst of the NFL. And now that they're in the top
There was almost no debate about that. Like, that was like
It was only the Ravens that could even come close. I'm going to be honest with you. But the Bears, they stepped it up, okay? They were not, again, not including tight ends, but they got Trey Burton, also going to help this team out a lot. Allen Robinson, a #1 receiver threat. Obviously, a lot of talent there. I know he was hurt last season, but he's going to make that team a lot better in terms of the receiver game. Taylor Gabriel. I love Taylor Gabriel, okay? Especially when he's used correctly. We've seen it before at Atlanta. He can be used very effectively. Kevin White, can you stay healthy? Can you please?
Just so we can see if you're good or not.
Yeah, because, like, I've seen, like, 2 seconds of you, but I can't see the other 59, 58. I just want to see it really quickly. So if you're good, if you're healthy, I can make this point a little bit easier. But I think that the Bears set up Mitchell Trubisky in the best way possible. They gave him the most chances to succeed in his second year. You guys know how I feel about Trubisky, but they have given them the tools necessary to do it, and the receiver core got instantly better based on what they did in the offseason, and that's a plus. I got to put him up here at 15 because I have a lot higher expectations for this receiver group than I did the year before.
My next one, the New England Patriots.
Wow, I got him higher than you? That's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I'm actually not that high on this receiver group this year. I like it, but I'm not as high as I was the last couple of years. Obviously, they have Julian Edelman, who may be suspended for the first 4 games, still up for debate, probably, but we'll see. We have Chris Hogan, who I think has shown that he can be really good at times, and he's really good in the system at times, but at other times he's had some injury issues, and he hasn't really been able to bounce back. Like, he'll get in a really good rhythm and be really, really good for a few stretch of games and score a lot of touchdowns, and he had a great Super Bowl, but at other times, he'll just kind of disappear. So obviously, I love Edelman, but he's coming back from injury and going to be coming back from a suspension. Then you have Hogan, who is good, but then also at times a little invisible. Jordan Matthews, I think, is going to step up and be their third option. I think he's a good slot receiver and gives them a sort of a different type of player. I kind of think towards what they used to have in Brandon LaFell, but maybe a little bit better. He's obviously had 1,000-yard seasons in the past with the Eagles. When he was a #1 option for that offense. I think here as a kind of secondary option, he can be pretty good. Now we get to the depth where Malcolm Mitchell has been injured, but hopefully he can come back, and I think he's still a talented guy. If he can come back, I think their receiver core instantly gets a boost. Kenny Britt has looked good in the offseason, obviously had a past of success, but is also a little bit older. They also have a couple of other guys. They have a lot of guys. Like, they have Brenton Burson, they have Cordero Patterson, Philip Dorsett. Like, they have a lot of guys. Like, they probably have like 10, but I'm not going to go past like 5 or 6 guys because that's just too many. Got to cut it off. So that being said, that being said, I really like, Edelman's a #1 option to me. Hogan is a decent #2. Matthews is a #3. Mitchell could definitely put them higher if he comes back and he's healthy. And if Britt can show that he still has something left, then definitely they can definitely be higher. But I still think there's questions with this group. The Edelman injury does hurt them a little bit, and I think they're not a group that I think without Gronk on the field, it definitely is a lot different. So I think with Gronk, they are great as secondary options, but I don't know if they're a great go-to targets other than Edelman. So I have the Patriots at 14.
14. New Orleans Saints over here at number 14 for me.
Mine's a lot higher.
See, this is where we're in disagreement. Okay, Michael Thomas obviously could be in the discussion for near top 5 status. He's a very good receiver. Drew Brees and him last season, they went off. I really like the production from them. Cameron Meredith, the guy that gave us the most views on this channel in the last 2 months, because I don't fucking know.
Cam, you're the man. I love you, Cam.
He's crazy how much he got on that view. But besides that, I think he's going to be a really good talent for Drew Brees in this offense. Ted Ginn, really love the speed. Again, he's one of those journeymen. He continues to be somewhat of a good threat for any team he goes to. And I like the production that he gave last season, especially in the playoffs. He did very well. In terms of the rest of it, I don't think there's a whole lot of depth past those 3 guys. It's a very good 3 group for me personally, because you got the 1 star in Thomas, a guy that I really like, Cameron Meredith, and a speedy guy that's always been there in Ted Ginn. But Austin Carr, Traquan Smith, Brandon Coleman, decent receivers. They give them a little bit of depth, just not outstanding. Again, if we were going to put this in terms of running backs as well, they're damn near in the probably top 3.
Lucky number 13.
Oh, yeah,
I have
lucky.
the Houston Texans. Houston Texans. Why, do you have a lot higher?
I got them higher, yeah.
Okay. Houston Texans are my number 1 team for the AFC South, and it's not really close. Of course, they have DeAndre Hopkins, who I think is the 4th best receiver in the league. 4th best receiver in the league. Will Fuller, I still think there's a jury out on him somewhat, and this is probably where we disagree, because I think he's been really good with Deshaun Watson, but when he's not been with Deshaun Watson, it's been a little bit of an up and down process. So I still need to see him prove to me that he is a good receiver. But I think he's definitely has his pros, where he's a good deep threat. He's got speed, but to me, he's a little soft. I think he needs to develop more of an all-around game. I like Bruce Ellington quite a bit. I hope he makes the team because I think he's a pretty good receiver. Braxton Miller, they have as well. And I forgot the other receiver. I just heard about him, but apparently he's pushing Braxton Miller for the slot receiver role. Maybe if you have the name, I'm not sure, Dylan, but they have a pretty good group. I think that past the top 2, though, it's a little questionable in terms of their 3rd, 4th, 5th guy and who that is going to be. But obviously they're number 1 and number 2, very dynamic. It's just a matter if Will Fuller can take that next step. I think they could catapult to the top 10. But until then, I have them at 13.
Philadelphia Eagles are here at number 13.
You did that on purpose.
I didn't, but you brought it up, so that's funny. Alshon Jeffrey, I know you rag on him as a number 1 threat, but the first 8 games.
I called him a top 15 guy.
I know, but you don't like you kind of ratting on. The thing is that I hated the word
maybe
decoy.
because he screwed me in fantasy for a couple of years. But
I do hate the word decoy when it comes to a number 1 guy. That doesn't work for me. But in the second half and in the playoffs, he did good, especially in the Super Bowl. I'm going to give him the credit. Nelson Aguilar, man, what a season compared to the year before. I mean, absolutely dramatic turnaround.
Yeah.
Absolutely hated him the year before, and now he's better. Mike Wallace, I think, is going to be a good threat. I like what I see out of him. I think Carson Wentz and him are going to have an underrated little chemistry between them. Matt Collins, I know AC's boy over here, did decent. I think there's some things you got to like about this group. Alshon Jeffrey, please don't be a decoy. You'll be higher on this list for sure. And Nelson Aguilar really impressed me last year, so I got to put him a little bit higher than I would have had it been for last year. So number 13, the Eagles here.
All right, here it comes. Number 12, the Denver Broncos.
Wow, 12. That's...
You know what's absolutely insane? Okay. I have 4 AFC West teams in my top 12.
Fuck.
Every single one.
That's well, I've already mentioned 2, so I don't have that.
Denver Broncos. So they have Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders. I still think is one of the top combos in the league, and Dylan can disagree with that. That's fine. I still think they're great. I think a lot of it is, especially Emmanuel Sanders. I still think Emmanuel Sanders is really good from what I've seen. And I just think it's their quarterback play. But then also you get to their 2 rookies that I think is going to upgrade this group a lot. Hamilton from Penn State, Deshaun Hamilton. I think it's going to be a really good slot receiver. And they haven't had a competent slot receiver or 3rd option for a long time since Wes Welker. Sutton, as you brought up, I think he has a lot of potential to replace one of Thomas or Sanders in the future. One of these guys once they leave as for free agency to another team, which might happen very soon. But this year, I think, might be their best receiver group in the last few years. And I think that it's going to actually surprise a lot of people, because I think the rookies are put in a really good spot here at the 3rd and 4th spot where they could really show out in that spot because they have the potential to be better than that. And then, of course, you have Sanders and Thomas. I think just a really good blend of 2 different type of guys. So Broncos, I have at number 12. And with a better quarterback in Case Keenum, I think they'll be back to 1,000-yard receivers, the top 2 guys.
Receiver-wise, Mike Evans, A&M boy. Absolutely tremendous talent. I like what I see out of him. Deshaun Jackson, he was inconsistent last year, but he also put out some really good stats. Adam Humphries, I really like what I see out of him. In terms of the Buccaneers, they're probably the worst team in the top 12 that I have in terms of overall, like, what their record's going to be. But I just love the receiver talent. You got Mike Evans, who is at least a top 10, I would say near 7 or 8 category. Deshaun Jackson is going to be reliable. Adam Humphries, I like the talent. Tight end wise, OJ Howard's great. He's going to be very good, I think. So there's some really good talent. I think Evans is one of the most dominant receivers in the game. And there's just some overall good chemistry between these guys here. So I got to put him here at number 12.
I have them at number 11.
Solid.
And this was obviously before I heard of the suspension, actually. I did this list. So, but that being said, I don't think it impacts me too much. Mike Evans, I think the difference between the Broncos and the Bucs, I just think they have a little bit more proven in terms of their third option, which is Godwin, who I think is actually pretty good. And I know that some people have gotten after us in our video about the Bucs draft because AC said that Godwin wasn't very good. I disagree with him there. I think he's actually pretty good third receiver, and I think he'll have a more of a breakout season this year once Winston comes back. Deshaun Jackson, I think, is going to have a bounce back year. Didn't really blend well last year. He's still a deep threat. He still had a good yards per catch, and I think he still has the speed. And obviously Mike Evans, as you brought up, good number 1 receiver. I don't know if he's a top 10 receiver right now, but he's definitely around there. So I think that top 3 is very solid, and they complement each other well. They also have Justin Watson. He's not bad. And also I have 3 NFC South teams in my top 12.
All right, number 11. It's one of Mitch's teams, one of his boys. The Chargers.
No, really?
The Chargers are at number 11. Okay, Keenan Allen, fucking dope. Last season, he came in, comeback player of the year. He was really, really good. Travis Benjamin, he had some like 2 or 3 really good games, but also didn't get a lot of playing time. I hope this year he gets a little bit more. We'll see how it goes. Tyrell Williams, I think, is a solid talent. Mike Williams, wow, a lot of 2 Williams in a row. Didn't do much last year. He didn't do anything. I hope that they see that he is a good talent and that they will use him, and hopefully they do well. I mean, Keenan Allen, man, I love what I saw out of him last year. He destroyed my Cowboys, so that was an indication.
That was amazing. I love it.
Yeah, I know.
Because I said, beginning of the year, Chargers are going to beat the Cowboys. You're like, no.
It was a different situation at the beginning of the season towards that game. And
I call it, bro.
You know the different situation. They still didn't even make the playoffs. Regardless, that's not the issue.
Bullshit.
You also called that. They should have, but still, I wanted to make my promise right. They will make the playoffs this season, I feel like, because they got really good talent, and I feel like this team is always hurt with some kind of injury. Fucking Hunter Henry's out for their tight end situation, which sucks. But I still got to put him here at number 11 because they got a really good number 1 guy and some good depth with guys like Benjamin if they play on more, and Tyrell and Mike Williams.